This is a stimulus update and daily news report. More info is coming in when it comes to the Build Back Better plan at $1.75 trillion. One Democrat is saying that 10% of that could be trimmed in the Senate until it gets back to the House and voted on again. I'll play you the interview of what was said there. Also play an interview from the White House, and we'll go over the latest stimulus check articles like this. Child tax credit 2021 update. Families could get a surprise $8,000 stimulus payment after Thanksgiving cash is issued. Also, this one right here, $3,600 stimulus check to be given next month. Guess who will receive? Also give you the latest updates on other things as well. Hope you're having a great Monday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 to my subscribers. I have more details to that down in the description below. In just a few days, I'll be announcing it. But first, let's get into stimulus check news. So, child tax credit 2021 update. Families could get a surprise $8,000 stimulus payment after Thanksgiving cash issued. So what is it saying here? Families in 2021 are eligible to claim credits for expenses of up to $8,000 for one child and $16,000 for multiple kids in the surprising new stimulus payment. So this is for expenses that include transportation, housekeepers, babysitters, before and after school programs, as well as day camps and daycare. In addition to that, they could be used for care for dependents with disabilities. In the past, this was at $6,000 for two or more children, but I guess now it's up to $8,000 and $16,000. When it comes to this article right here, it says $3,600 stimulus check to be given next month. Guess who will receive? So this is a very misleading headline because there is no $3,600 check to be given next month. This is talking about the child tax credit. If you have a kid 6 and under, then you get the $3,600. If you opted out of the monthly payments, then you could get it in a one lump sum, but that's not until taxes are due in January of 2022. So it's not going to be next month, not going to be December, it's going to be January. Just wanted to clarify this headline so it's not too misleading for everybody. Next, nearly 3 million Americans demand $2,000 stimulus check as COVID-19 starts to rise again. So this is talking about the petition here. I think it, with all a combination of the other petitions that are out there, I think it is over 3 million, but this one is the biggest one for the $2,000 per month to every American, currently at 2,966,000 signatures, and not looking good for a fourth stimulus check. It's not in any bill. We haven't heard any news about a fourth stimulus check recently. Haven't heard anything about the senior citizen $1,400 stimulus check either. Haven't gotten any news articles on that. Next, let's talk about the big Build Back Better bill. So Democrats signal Senate to trim 10% of spending bill, another House vote inevitable. So basically, what's going to happen here is the Senate has to work through this bill, and Ro Khanna, Democrat, says that the Build Back Better Act has passed the House. It is not going to be the same when it comes back to the House. Once the Senate gets their hands on it, it's going to be about 90% of the version that was passed in the House. So here's what Ro Khanna has to say about that.
So we showed the video of the mosh pit there of celebration in the House. Were you a part of that?
I wasn't jumping literally, but I was jumping with joy in my heart. I'll tell you why. You know, France has had universal preschool since the 1800s. Since the 1800s. The École system there, it works. And you know what the biggest benefit of preschool is? It's for the working class and the middle class. The studies show it has the most impact in giving their kids a shot. We're going to do that for the first time in the United States. And then on climate, this is the biggest investment in climate this country has ever made. We're going to hit the president's goals with executive actions of climate emissions, carbon emissions by 2030. It's huge.
Paid family leave is in the bill, 4 weeks of paid family leave. It is something that Senator Joe Manchin has said repeatedly he can't support it. Why is it in the House bill, if that's the case?
Well, there are other senators who really want it in. I mean, if you value families, you should be for having people be able to take care of their families. This isn't about politics. This is about allowing people to have time to take care of their kids, to take care of their elderly parents. And I think other senators are going to really work to get this across the finish line.
Okay, so now it's going over to the Senate. This bill, the Build Back Better Act as passed by the House, is not going to be the same when it comes back to the House after the Senate gets its hands on it. Are there red lines for you that you won't cross. If that Senate bill comes over and there are certain provisions that were in it that you voted for aren't in the bill that comes back from the Senate?
Well, if the bill was significantly diluted on climate, it would give a lot of people pause. I don't expect that to be the case for two reasons. One, this is the framework the president negotiated, and he's confident it's going to pass the Senate. People said, oh, was it going to pass the House? He was right. It passed the House because he negotiated it. I have full confidence it'll pass the Senate. It's going to be 90% of what we pass.
Let me play you some sound from White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, what she had to say at the briefing on Friday.
This bill, no matter what, everybody supports universal pre-K, cutting the cost of childcare, a historic investment in addressing the climate crisis, making sure there's more housing units available, making sure elder care is less expensive. There are disagreements. Everybody knows that publicly, but he knows he's not going to get everything he wants in this package. If it's not in there, he'll continue to fight for it.
If it's not in there, he'll continue to fight for it. That's the president of the United States. If some provisions aren't in the bill that comes back from the Senate, will you continue to fight for them?
Absolutely. And one thing, Jonathan, I don't understand is the criticism over the process. This is how democracy is supposed to work. We all represent different constituencies. We work, we compromise. You know what the problem is? Only one side is playing in democracy, the Democrats. The Republicans refuse to play.
I'm going to get you on. We're out of time. I got to get you on one more thing. In the Washington Post yesterday was a big story about, Democrats worried about whether the president's going to run for re-election. And of course, the story says he will. But here's a key quote that I found interesting. Quote, President Biden will enjoy strong support from many progressives when he runs for re-election. He will certainly have mine, said Congressman Ro Khanna, Democrat, California. And this is the key piece, who co-chaired the campaign of Senator Bernie Sanders in 2020.
I've been very impressed with the president's leadership. He's taken progressive ideals and he's delivering the most possible under the times. He deserves re-election, but that's far away. Let's just first figure out how we're going to deliver for the American people.
Well, that is a good point. It is far away.
So we sort of have a little bit of timeline here. So this article right here, Schumer says Democrats will negotiate with Manchin and Sinema on Build Back Better plan and want bill done by Christmas. So Christmas is more than a month away. So we're not hearing that it's going to be passed by the end of the week, by next week, but yeah, it looks like about a month, according to Chuck Schumer, done by Christmas. Could be done sooner, but that's what Chuck Schumer said. Here he said the House did a very strong bill. Everyone knows that Manchin and Sinema have their concerns, but we're going to try to negotiate with them and get a very strong, bold bill out in the Senate, which will then go back to the House and pass. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. Here's the White House talking more about the Build Back Better plan.
Inflation is at a 31-year high. So how can you say that this Build Back Better bill, which, as you just saw, passed the House on Friday, is not going to hurt in that way? How can you say it's going to lower inflation when you're pumping really trillions of dollars into the economy in just recent months?
Well, there's no question inflation is high, and it's affecting American consumers, and it's affecting their outlook. But that's actually why we need to move on this Build Back Better bill right now. Experts across the board have looked at it and have concluded that it won't increase inflation because it's paid for. When you pay for investments, you don't actually add aggregate demand to the economy. We saw this week two large rating firms, financial rating firms, Fitch and Moody's, actually underscore that this bill won't increase inflation. But what it will do is it will lower costs. Brett, this bill is going to be the biggest cost-cutting bill for working class and American families in decades in this country. And it's going to go at costs that are persistent problems for the American people in their lives. We'll lower the cost of prescription drugs, put a cap on out-of-pocket costs for drugs for seniors, and allow Medicare to finally negotiate prescription drug prices on behalf of American consumers. It will lower the cost of health care, lower the cost of housing as well, and it will get millions of Americans to work by actually addressing the costs that keep them from going to the workplace. We have millions of parents, women in particular, who can't work because they can't afford the cost of child care or to care for an elderly parent. this bill will lower those costs, get people working, and because it's paid for and it won't increase the deficit, we're actually going to do that in a way that keeps the strong momentum in the economy going.
Yeah, I mean, you know that there are critics who really have issue with the paid-for part of it. We've heard former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who also held the job you now hold with the Obama administration, express real concerns about Democrats not taking inflation seriously and only exacerbating the problem with these bills. But now you have Steve Ratner, senior advisor in the Obama administration, writing this: Build Back Better can be deemed paid for only if one embraces budget gimmicks, like assuming that some of the most important initiatives will be allowed to expire in just a few years. The result, a package that front-loads spending while tax revenues arrive only over a decade. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimates that the plan would likely add $800 billion or more to the deficit over the next 5 years, exacerbating inflationary pressures. So you're saying Ratner and Summers are both wrong?
Well, respectfully, Larry Summers, who has been a critic of a number of the policies of this administration, has actually said that the Build Back Better bill won't increase inflation and makes much-needed investments in the economy. And it has been a while in Washington since we've actually done the hard work of paying for a bill over 10 years. But that's exactly what this bill does. It has long-term investments in things like child care, lowering the cost of child care, providing preschool across the country. But then it pays for those by doing long-term reforms to our tax system. For example, we would put a 15% minimum tax for the largest corporations to avoid what happens today, which is that large, very profitable companies end up paying zero in taxes. That's a permanent reform to the tax system that will generate more revenue for the long term. And so when you look at the impact of those policies in the aggregate, it would reduce the deficit by about $112 billion this decade. Actually, over the long term, which is where, if you really care about the fiscal soundness of this country, you should be looking at the long term. In the second decade, this bill would reduce the deficit by more than $2 trillion. So this bill, unlike what has happened in Washington over the last several years, is actually doing the hard work of paying for proposals over the long term. It is fiscally responsible, and it'll cut costs for families almost immediately.
Address Ratner's concerns, sorry for the delay. The budget gimmicks here that he says the sunsetting of some of these policies make the numbers, the paid-for part, work.
These aren't gimmicks. This is a responsible long-term investment. 85% of the provisions in this bill are put in place for the long term. And where there are places where programs are not extended permanently, a future Congress will have the choice of whether to extend those or not. The president has been very clear. He believes that anything that we do going forward, anything a future Congress might do or not do, should be fully paid for. But it is a completely new standard in Washington to say, is this bill paid for based on what a future Congress may or may not do? If you look at this bill, right, long-term investments to drive the productive capacity of our economy, fully paid for, and frankly, more than fully paid for over the long term. The same people that are concerned about profess to be concerned about our fiscal future should really be focused on the long term. This bill is going to make a lot of positive difference there.
Brian Dees getting some criticism and some tough questions there. Let me know your thoughts on all that down in the comments below. That is all the stimulus news I have for you today. To hopefully cheer you up a bit, here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
This is the tip of the day. I'm going to tell you one thing what you can feel. If you really want something, then be a survivor, some juice. Just kidding. Be a survivor and do whatever you want, because that when someone's here for you, you can always use some help. Anyways. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your support. Here are some more pictures that we took over the weekend with the family. Hope you enjoy them. Hope you had a great weekend. We just did a bunch of family stuff. Gingerbread house, Christmas tree, some cleaning around the house, some pictures we took. So yeah, we had a good time together. Did some big cooking together as well. Anyways, if you want to check out any more other videos, you could click up here or down here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.